What's up, my fellow gamers out there? Do you guys like WipEout? I do. They are fantastic games. I still remember when I played in 1997 the first WipEout on Sega Saturn, because the first WipEout has been released also on Sega Saturn, not just on PlayStation. And lately I have decided to check out all the WipEout games on PlayStation to find out which one is the best, how they hold up, and even if they are still worth playing today. Spoiler alert, because I'm sure that you want to know which one is the best. So, according to the experts on Reddit, and also in my humble opinion, the second WipEout game, which is WipEout XL or 2097, depending which region the game has been released, is the best. But I think control-wise and graphics-wise, the third game, which is really good. But what about the first one? Well, the first one has been released more than 30 years ago. That's crazy. But that's still a solid game, and it's still worth to play. However, it shows its age. In this video, I'm going to talk about WipEout. I'm going to review all three of them, and I'm going to tell you all the pros and cons of these games, and you can decide which one you're going to check it out. So, without any further delay, let's start the video and play some WipEout. There are racing games that age badly, and then there is WipEout. Released in the mid-90s on the original PlayStation and Sega Saturn, WipEout didn't just try to be fast, it tried to be cool. Futuristic anti-gravity racing, electronic music, modern graphics design, and the sense that this game was aimed at high. The first WipEout is pure ambition. Back in 1995, this game felt alien. Anti-gravity ships, techno music, sharp angles, neon colors, nothing else on consoles looked or sounded like this. But let's be honest, this game shows its age. One of the biggest issues is ship choice. You can select different teams, but the game gives you almost no information about how ships differ. Speed, handling, weight, good luck guessing. To make things worse, you can't change ships between stages in championship mode, and since every track feels different, that's frustrating. You should be adapting, but the game doesn't really let you. What is interesting is that in the first WipEout game there is no shield system. Of course you can pick up shields like you can see it on the screen now, but the lack of permanent shield system of the ships makes races simpler and sometimes easier. But it also removes a layer of strategy. Crashes matter less and combat feels more basic. And yet this is important that this is the first WipEout. For a debut title this is impressive. The sense of speed is real, the tracks are memorable, and the championship mode is unforgiving. You only get 3 attempts to qualify per stage. Fail, and the whole championship is over. It's rough around the edges, but it works. And more importantly, it laid the foundation for everything that followed. My two favorite tracks in the first WipEout are Ultima 7 and Carbonis 5. Ultima 7 is usually the first track people remember, and not always fondly. Wide straights followed by tight turns, awkward elevation changes, and walls that feel way too close at high speed. It's not elegant, but it immediately teaches you one thing: you are not in control yet. Ultima 7 is pure early WipEout energy, fast, harsh, and unforgiving. Carbonis 5 is the track where the game starts feeling truly hostile. Sharp corners, narrow sections, and constant opportunities to smash into barriers. Without shields, every mistake hurts. Carbonis 5 is memorable because it exposes the limits of the first game's physics and your patience. WipEout XL or 2097 is where the series really grows up. This is the moment when WipEout stops being just a stylish experiment and becomes a proper competitive racing game. The biggest improvement is the introduction of shields, or energy, as you call it. Now you actually have to manage damage, avoid reckless collisions, and think about survival, not just speed. Another great addition is you can weave tracks in full 3D before races. This finally allows you to make smarter ship choices, especially for technical or high-speed circuits. WipEout XL tracks feel more confident, more thematic, and far more readable at high speed. There is a strange design choice in the game. There is no traditional championship mode. WipEout XL actually features a dedicated progression structure, commonly referred to as challenge mode or tournament mode, which acts as the main championship progression. Players must win a series of races on specific tracks to progress, rather than simply accumulating points across the season. You must finish in the top 3 to keep progressing with specific challenge levels like the Phantom Challenge, unlocking higher speed classes and new tracks. Successfully completing these challenges acts as the game's championship, rewarding players with faster speed classes like the Vector, Venom, Rapier, and finally Phantom, and the Piranha prototype craft. While it differs from the traditional point-telling championship, the very first Wipeout game, the challenge-based progression is the championship structure of Wipeout XL. This structure won't be for everyone, but it encourages mastery rather than simple completion. In many ways, Wipeout XL feels more serious, more technical, and more demanding. And for a lot of fans, this is where the series truly shines. If the first game was the prototype and XL was Refinement, Wipeout 3 is a full realization of the idea. Everything here feels polished. The controls are fantastic, responsive, smooth and precise. The graphics are some of the best on PS1, just look at it, with clean visuals that still holds up surprisingly well. And the soundtrack is absolute classic Wipeout energy. When I heard Under the Influence from the Chemical Brothers in the menu when I booted up the game, I already enjoyed the game without even started yet. The HUD deserves special mention. This is true Wipeout style. Minimal, readable, futuristic and iconic. Gameplay wise, Wipeout 3 offers a ton of ways to play. Single races, tournaments, challenges, it feels generous and flexible. One of the most important additions is Hyper Thrust. This is a boost system that gives you a huge speed advantage, but it drains your shield. It's risky, aggressive and perfectly fits Wipeout high skill ceiling. And now the downside. In the main championship you only get access to 4 tracks at first. Yes, 4. The remaining tracks are locked behind progression. To unlock everything, you generally need to perform extremely well across all classes, often requiring gold medals or high placements across every race. Some sources describe this as needing gold in all races, others allow slightly more flexibility, but either way it's very demanding. And honestly, this is a bit disappointing for me. I would much rather have access to all tracks from the beginning and then chase gold medals as an optional challenge. A lot of players will never see all the content simply because the unlock requires are so strict. That said, once everything is unlocked, Wipeout 3 is incredible. Deep, fast, stylish and endlessly replayable. One thing people often forget about Wipeout is that it's not just racing, it's combat racing. But the way weapons work changes a lot across the first 3 games, and that directly affects how each one feels to play. The original Wipeout has a very basic weapon system, and it shows. There are only a handful of pickups, and you have a temporary shield pickup, but it works very differently compared to later games, and this is important. The available weapons and pickups what you have is the missile, a homing projectile, simple and effective. You have a rocket, straight line, high speed shot. You can drop mines. You can drop it behind your ship. And there's a turbo, raw speed boots, very risky in the corners. And you can, as I said, you have a temporary shield. The key thing here is that the shield is short-lived and passive. You grab it, it absorbs damage for a while, and then it's gone. There's no visible shield meter, no long-term management, and no decision making around when to use it. You can't spend it, it just exits until it doesn't. Because of this, combat in Wipeout 1 still feels harsh and unpredictable. You can protect yourself briefly, but you don't control that protection. So, while shields technically exist, they don't yet define the gameplay. In Wipeout XL is where weapons start to feel designed, not just added. The introduction of shields completely changes the game. Now combat isn't just about hitting, it's about timing and survival. The available weapons are very similar. You got missiles, rockets, mine, and you have Plasma Bolt, which is a powerful forward shot that rewards precision. You also have a Shockwave, which is a radial blast around your ship, perfect when surrounded. And you can pick up a shield as well, and still you got the turbo as well. And now you actually have decisions. Do you use turbo now and risk your shield later, or do you save the Shockwave for defense or offense? Combat in XL feels faster, smarter, and far more balanced. And Wipeout 3 doesn't reinvent the weapon system, it perfects it. Most weapons return, but the key difference is how they interact with the game's new mechanics. You get available weapons which is the same as before, but the real game changer here is Hyper Thrust. Hyper Thrust isn't a pickup, it's a built-in ability. You can trigger it anytime, but it drains your shield. That means shields are no longer just protection, they are currency. Every decision matters. Boost now and risk getting destroyed, or play it safe and lose position. This turned Wipeout 3 into the most skill-based combat racer of the trilogy. The weapons system doesn't just add chaos, they define how each Wipeout game feels. And that evolution is a big reason why the PS1 trilogy still holds up today very well. What makes the PS1 WipEout trilogy special is progression through iteration. WipEout 1 introduced the vision, WipEout XL defines the gameplay identity, and WipEout 3 perfects the formula. Even today, a sense of speed, the music, and the visual design still feels unique. These games don't rely on realism, they rely on style, rhythm, and flow. If you enjoy futuristic racers, arcade handling, or just want to experience one of the PlayStation's most iconic series from the beginning, all three are absolutely worth playing. And now, let's answer the question, should you play WipEout on PlayStation? Of course, yes. There is no bad choice with these games. All of them are good. And if I can recommend you something, start with the very first one, because you can see how the series has been improved from game to game. You can see the foundation in the first WipEout and how everything is better in the second game and how it's evolved into the third game. So it's a very nice way to see how the game has been improved. The controls are good in every WipEout game in this 32-bit era, and you cannot go wrong with any of them. And despite there are many modern WipEout games, even on the PS4 they made a remake of the HD version of the WipEout 3, and even there is a VR support on it. And there is a funny story. I tried this VR version with my childhood friend Greg, and that was an experience that it's the best way to play WipEout, because that's just absolutely fantastic. But we are talking about the 32-bit and retro games era. But there was a funny story that I remember that I played after we had a lunch together, and I started to play WipEout VR, and I felt really dizzy, and I had a bit of like noisy, and I was like, oh, fucking hell, okay, I'm gonna stop playing it. And my friend Greg started to laugh and told me that, yeah, you see, we are getting older, because if we would play this back then, when we were like 12, 15 years old, we would play it until we would throw up, and we just hold the, I don't know, some kind of bucket to the other while we were playing with a VR headset. So yeah, that was funny. So yes, definitely try WipEout games from this 32-bit era, play all three of them and decide which one is your best and which one is your favorite one, and make sure to let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm going to see you in the next Backlog Quest video. Bye bye!